Without further ado, every Thursday to end off the episode of the Zach Krull Sports Podcast, I will be giving you guys my picks for the upcoming week of the NFL season. Week 1, we were recording the divisional previews on Thursday. That episode dropped, so we didn't get a chance to pick all of the Week 1 games on the show. We did get the Thursday night game right. I ended up going 9-7. If you are interested in my picks more, go to my Twitter, ZKRULL3, to see each and every one. They are posted on Sunday before the games, but why wait? I will give them to you right now. Without further ado, I'll hit the music. It is time for my Week 2 NFL picks. In Week 1, we went 9-7. We're obviously going to be doing better than that. Week 1, in my opinion, seriously, is one of the harder weeks to pick in the NFL. Hit the music. Let's do it. Thursday Night Football, Giants, Washington football team. This is such a big game. You always know what they say about teams who start off the season 0-2. Usually, it is not the recipe to get yourself into the playoffs. It is a hard road to recover from when you start off the season 0-2. And the crazy thing about this game is going into the season, both teams really had legitimate playoff expectations. They did. The Giants, they had a decent year last year. I think they won some games they weren't necessarily supposed to based on Joe Judge and the fact that he always had his team ready to play. But my worry about the New York Giants is the quarterback position. And I'm going to say it right here. Even though Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt for the Washington football team, I think Taylor Heinicke is the better quarterback in this game than Daniel Jones. I think Washington might just be better off with Taylor Heinicke as their starting quarterback. I was really impressed with what this guy was able to do in that playoff game against Tampa Bay. He didn't play badly in the game against the Los Angeles Chargers when he had to come in and rescue Washington from the Fitzpatrick injury. But I do like the Washington football team. I think their defense is better. I think their pass rush is really going to be able to get going against the New York Giants' banged-up offensive line. I think Daniel Jones turns the ball over a couple times. Give me the football team of Washington to get the job done over the Giants. Sunday, 1 o'clock, let's get into it. San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles. Now, both of these two teams started off 1-0. And the 49ers played really well for the first 3.5 quarters of that game against the Detroit Lions. But then all of a sudden, you turn around, you look at your TV, and you say to yourself, holy cow, the 49ers, this is a one-possession game. And finally, their defense stepped up. They made a play late. They stopped Jared Goff. And the 49ers ended up getting the victory. But I don't love the way how that game ended. And you're hearing all the rumblings going around Kyle Shanahan and Brandon Ayuk in 49ers practice. Ayuk, I was very surprised. He's in the doghouse right now. He's not really able to get on the field because last year he was one of the more dynamic young receivers in the NFL. So with that being said, I'm going to take the Eagles in this game. I was so impressed with what I saw from Jalen Hurts Sunday in Atlanta. And I get it, it's the Falcons. That was a pathetic effort by Atlanta, getting blown out at home by the Philadelphia Eagles. First game with Arthur Smith. They weren't even able to score a touchdown. That was terrible. I was impressed with the Eagles. They have more talent than you think. And I don't know. I just don't have some great vibes around the 49ers right now. I do think they're a playoff team. I think they'll be fine. And Jimmy Garoppolo actually played really well in that game against Detroit. But there's something about this Eagle team, man. There's something about Jalen Hurts. I will take Philadelphia to pull the upset win over the 49ers. Another upset I'm going to pick. Well, it's an upset in Vegas. I don't really think it's an upset. I had the Miami Dolphins winning the AFC East over the Buffalo Bills before the start of the season. So why would I go against it now? I will take Miami to get the win over Buffalo. I think the Bills, as great of a season as they had last year, they were just primed for some regression. Their offense was just too good and too dynamic to be able to do that 2 years in a row. And I love this Dolphins defense. Playing at home, they are always able to force the timely turnover. Brian Flores is going to be motivated to win this game, as great of a head coach as he's been throughout his NFL career so far. For some reason, the Dolphins have not been able to beat Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills. I think that changes here. I think their defense comes ready to play. The best secondary in the NFL comes ready to play. And I'm actually going to predict that Josh Allen may have some trouble for the second week in a row. And the Bills, a team that a lot of people had going into this season as a possible Super Bowl contender, I think they could be a little bit worried heading into week 3. I'll take Miami to start off their season 2-0 and get the win over Buffalo. Another divisional matchup. Let's go to the NFC. 2-1-0 teams. The New Orleans Saints, the Carolina Panthers. I was really impressed with what New Orleans was able to do against the Green Bay Packers. The effort that we saw from Jameis Winston, really since he's gotten to New Orleans, it's been impressive. He took the back seat behind Drew Brees. He was ready to learn. And I do think on Sunday we saw that a prepared Jameis Winston is a very dangerous and a very talented football player. But with that being said, I'm going to take the Panthers to win this football game. If you've listened to this show, you will know the Panthers were my surprise playoff team in the NFC. And against the Jets, I totally understand, right? That's a hard game to judge them on, because even though their defense played really well and did a good job being able to get to the quarterback at many times throughout the game, that New York Jet offensive line is putrid. And the Saints offensive line is significantly better. But I believe in Matt Rule. I believe in Joe Brady. And I believe in the weapons around Sam Darnold. I think the Saints, considering everything they've been going through of late, moving around with the hurricane, I think it catches up to them here in a road divisional matchup. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers to get the win over the Saints. In Matt Rule, in Sam Darnold, we trust. The Las Vegas Raiders head to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Both of these teams are 1-0. And I'll start off by saying this. I wanted to give the Raiders defense credit for the way they were able to step up in that Monday Night Football game against the Ravens. The fact that they were able to force those two turnovers, in my opinion, you could make the argument like that's the reason why the Raiders were able to win that game. But I have a hard time seeing them do that on the road in a short week against these Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh had a really impressive Week 1 win. Their defense showed me that they are still one of the 2 or 3 best defensive units in all of football. I think we saw that TJ Watt was worth every single penny that the Steelers decided to pay him. He is a big-time player, and I like the Steelers in this game. At home, their defense is going to be making plays. I don't think the Raiders are going to play as well in the trenches as they did last week. And in terms of defenses that could win you games, and in terms of defenses that could just make big-time plays all over the field and possibly limit the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, for me, the defense at the top of that list is the Pittsburgh Steelers behind TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think Pittsburgh wins this game over the Raiders and starts 2-0. The Los Angeles Rams, they're sitting at 1-0 following their big-time Sunday Night Football win against the Chicago Bears. They're going to head on the road to Indianapolis as the Colts, for the second week in a row, will take on an NFC West team at home. And I'm going to take the Rams in this game. I just think the Rams are better. And I picked the Colts to win the AFC South before the season started. I have breaking news for you guys. The AFC South stinks. And a lot of people have been talking about the NFC North and just how bad of a division that has looked recently. And I totally get it. But at the same time, I think the AFC South is just as worse. Indianapolis and Tennessee both did not look good at all in Week 1. And I think the Rams are one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the NFL. I just think they're better. You obviously have to worry a little bit about West Coast teams flying east and the fact that you can never count out a Frank Reich coach team, especially with that defense, especially with that offensive line. But Matthew Stafford looked too confident on Sunday Night Football, man. He did. I believe in Sean McVay. I believe in the Rams to come on the road to Lucas Oil Stadium prepared and ready to get the job done. I will take the Rams to start their season off 2-0 and beat the Colts. Let's go to the AFC East. Another matchup between a 1-0 and 0-1 team. The Patriots and the Jets. This is a battle between two 0-1 teams. I was out here giving New England that Week 1 victory over Miami. We know that didn't happen. I'm going to take the Patriots to win this game. It's a tough spot for Zach Wilson as a young rookie quarterback going up against a Bill Belichick coach defense. And I get it. The Patriots last week, they showed some flaws. They showed some good things. Matt Jones certainly isn't perfect, but I just think the situation that he is in with New England is significantly better than the situation the young quarterback Zach Wilson is in New York. The Jets couldn't block at all. And I do think the Patriots' pass rush is good. They played well last week. Matthew Judon looked about as good as you could ask for the New England Patriots. I think the Patriots come in hungry in this game. They're going to come ready to play. I will take New England to get the win over the Jets. The Cincinnati Bengals, they will head on the road with the record of 1-0, taking on the 0-1 Chicago Bears. And this is going to be the Bears' first home game in front of fans in about a year. And I'm going to say this, Andy Dalton is starting for the Chicago Bears against his former team, the Cincinnati Bengals. I do think Andy Dalton is going to come ready to play. He spoke a lot in this offseason about how this was his year, it was his time, and Andy, I'm sorry, I just don't think it's going to work in this spot. Number one, if the Bears are losing at any time in this game, you know what we're going to hear. We want Fields. We want Fields. I mean, for God's sakes, we heard it in the preseason. Andy Dalton was playing the first quarter of preseason games, and the Chicago Bears fans were so excited, and they wanted Justin Fields. I mean, that preseason game against the Dolphins when he was out here throwing dimes through that long touchdown pass, and the Chicago Bear fans were going crazy, that was one of the best moments of the preseason. You could tell just how desperate Chicago Bear fans are for a franchise quarterback. But Bears fans, I'm sorry. I think the real franchise quarterback in this game is the one on the other sideline. Joe Exotic and the Cincinnati Bengals will be my pick to beat the Chicago Bears. Watch that game against the Vikings. Joe Burrow put the team on his back, and he said, we're not losing. I respect that guy a ton. I think he's the best quarterback in this game. I believe in the Bengals to get the Week 2 win over the Bears. The Broncos, they will head to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. I can't trust Urban Meyer. I mean, seriously, can we trust Urban Meyer at this point? We can't. And I understand it's at home. I think the Jaguars are going to show us a much better effort this week than they did last week against the Houston Texans. And let's face the facts. If we don't see a better effort from the Jaguars in this spot, then they're in more trouble than I expected. And it would really be clear to me that these players just have no interest in playing for Urban Meyer anymore. But when we look at the Denver Broncos, they look good in Week 1, man. I'm not going to lie. That was one of the better games I saw Teddy Bridgewater play in his career, even without Jerry Jeudy. I think they have the talent advantage. And for a head coach in Vic Fangio, let's face it, he has to win this year or else he's not going to have a job. I think this is a game the Broncos come out and win. I will take Denver to beat Jacksonville. Moving on, Houston and Cleveland. It's crazy because Houston in this game is 1-0. Cleveland is 0-1, and the Browns are obviously the significant favorite. I will take Cleveland to win. I think one thing that we are going to see consistently with these Cleveland Browns throughout the season is that when they're playing bad teams, and more specifically, teams that they should be beating, they're going to come through. They have the best offensive line in football. They have one of the best rushing attacks in football. And more importantly, their head coach knows that in order for their team to win games, he doesn't need to have Baker Mayfield just throwing the ball all over the field, which could lead to possible turnovers. I think the Texans played well last week, but that game was just a result of the Jacksonville Jaguars being putrid. I don't think David Culley is going to be able to outcoach Kevin Stefanski like he did with Urban Meyer last week. I just think the Browns at home, playing in front of fans, you know those fans are going to be excited. They're clearly the better team. I will take Cleveland to get the win over Houston. Let's go now to the 4 o'clock games. Atlanta heading to Tampa Bay. The Falcons were an absolute embarrassment last week. If you want to lose to the Eagles, that's one thing, but they didn't even show up. They weren't even ready to play. The Eagles just blitzed them, and it wasn't really close from there. Jalen Hurts deserves credit. The Eagles' defense deserves credit. But the fact the Falcons couldn't even score a touchdown at home against the Eagles, a team that their owner came out in the offseason and said, this is going to be a year in transition for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't love that whatsoever. I'm going to take the Buccaneers, obviously, in this one. I don't think Tampa Bay played their best game in week 1 that they're capable of. That game should not have been really close at all, but the Buccaneers just kept on keeping the Cowboys in the game with their own costly mistakes, shooting themselves in the foot. I think they're too good of a team to keep that up. I will take the Buccaneers to get the win over the Falcons. Continuing with the 4:05 games, let's go now to Arizona. The Valley of the Sun between the 1-0 Arizona Cardinals, a team that had a really impressive win last week against the Tennessee Titans, going on the road, getting the job done there. They will take on Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. They had a bad loss in week 1 against the Bengals. That's a game most of the time I do think the Vikings should be winning. But I'll say this. I was very hesitant on the Arizona Cardinals going into the season just because of the way they collapsed down the stretch last year. In my opinion, they should have been a clear playoff team, and they weren't. And to be honest with you, at home, after what they did last week, and considering the fact that they play in a tough NFC West, go win this game at home. I'll take them to win this game. I love what Kyler Murray was able to do in week 1. He looked like a dark horse MVP candidate, slinging the ball all over the field. You see that as more time goes on, him and DeAndre Hopkins are getting more and more comfortable playing with each other. But they're just better than Minnesota, in my opinion, man. And with that being said, having that game at home with fans in the building, go out and get the win. There's no excuses. You have the better quarterback in this game. I think you're the more talented team. And the Vikings were disappointing last week, man. Their defense had many times to get off the field and win them the game, and they couldn't get the job done. I will take the Cardinals to win this game. I'm out on the Vikings. I'll take the better quarterback at home. This is a big one. The Dallas Cowboys, coming off a heartbreaking loss on opening night to the Bucs. They will head to LA to take on the Chargers. This will be the Chargers' first game at SoFi Stadium with fans, and I love the Chargers in this game. Have you seen what's been going on with the Dallas Cowboys of late? DeMarcus Lawrence, hurt. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. Randy Gregory placed on COVID. We know what the deal is with Zach Martin. Lyle Collins, he didn't show up to his drug test. He gets suspended for 4 or 5 games. The Cowboys are losing too many bodies. And more importantly, Dak Prescott looked good in the Thursday night game against the Buccaneers. I don't want to just, hate on him. He looked good, and his arm looked fine. He made some big-time plays. But I think the Chargers have the better quarterback in this game. I really do. Justin Herbert showed me last week against the Washington football team that he refused to get off that football field, and he delivered for the Los Angeles Chargers. He made so many timely throws when his team needed it the most. I will take the Chargers based on their talent on both sides of the ball. I think they have the advantage really on both sides. I think their defense is better. Joey Bosa, Derwin James are back healthy. I think if those two guys stay healthy, you could absolutely make the argument that in the AFC, the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs might just be their division rival, the Los Angeles Chargers. It really might be. I was so impressed with the way Justin Herbert and Rashawn Slater were able to handle the Washington football team. I'll take the Chargers. I like Seattle to get the win over Tennessee in the other 4 o'clock game. I was disappointed with the Titans. I don't know how you let a team, even if it is a very talented Cardinal team, come into your own building on opening day and just kick your ass the way the Arizona Cardinals did to the Tennessee Titans. And I'm not going to lie, I have my worries about the Tennessee Titans. not only the fact that they lost Arthur Smith, one of the better offensive coordinators in the league, but they bring in Todd Dowling, who during his first stint as an offensive coordinator in the NFL with the Raiders, he stunk. He was terrible. On the other hand, the Seahawks and their new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, coming in from LA, he did a really good job in week 1, letting Russell Wilson cook. Russell looked comfortable in the offense. And I think the Seahawks had one of the more impressive wins in week 1 that not a lot of people are talking about. I understand it's the same thing just about every year with Seattle. They get off to this great start, and usually as the season goes on, they're not able to handle and keep up the expectations. But I was really impressed, and I think in week 2, they're in a nice spot. I will take Seattle to get the win at home in front of the 12s for the first time in over a year over Tennessee. You hear the music. Sunday Night Football, Chiefs, Ravens, let's do it. I love the Chiefs in this game. I think it's an impossible spot for the Ravens. Coming off of a short week without Ronnie Stanley, without Marcus Peters, without Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and the fact that their offensive line on Monday Night Football looked like they couldn't even block me. And then you look at the other side, the Chiefs. They're a team whose offensive line looks much improved, especially on the right side. Lamar Jackson has had trouble playing against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs throughout his career. You remember last year, these two teams played a primetime game in Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson barely had over 100 yards. I actually think he didn't have 100 yards passing. Patrick Mahomes had 5 touchdowns. I think this is a mismatch. I think Baltimore could be in trouble. And once again, the injury bug just unfortunately caught up to them. I like Kansas City to get the win over Baltimore. And that's perfect timing. You hear the music. Monday Night Football, Lions and the Packers. I think this is going to be a game where the Green Bay Packers just got absolutely blown out last week, and we totally understand that. So they're going to come out with a vengeance. They're going to come out ready to play in this one against the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell. The Lions are a team that showed me a better effort than many would expect last week. However, with that being said, I just don't think they're going to be able to outscore Green Bay at Lambeau Field, playing in front of the fans. I expect a much better effort from the Packers here. And let's just say this, if they don't, we have serious problems. So I will take Green Bay to get the win in Monday Night Football. That would be my survivor pick of the week as well. In week 1, I went with the Rams. So Rams in week 1 in the survivor pool, Packers in week 2. And to recap my picks, Washington over the Giants, Eagles over the Niners, Dolphins over the Bills, Panthers over the Saints, Steelers over the Raiders, Rams over the Colts, Patriots over the Jets, Bengals over the Bears, Broncos over the Jags, Browns over the Texans, Bucks over the Falcons, Cardinals over the Vikings, Chargers over the Cowboys, Seahawks over the Titans, Chiefs over the Ravens, Packers over the Lions. Everyone have a great week of football. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll talk to you guys soon.